and plague are old bedfellows, whether bubonic plague or COVID-19. In keeping with that tradition, Center Stage in Lake Forest proudly presents Where There's a Will, There's a Way, Shakespeare Online. Join us for this week's monologues performed and explained by our talented actors as we showcase the depth and breadth of Shakespeare's genius.
Hello, I'm Joe Page. Last summer, I had the pleasure of appearing in the Center Stage Shakespeare in the Parks production of As You Like It, in the roles of Duke Frederick and Jaques. As You Like It is one of Shakespeare's most popular comedies. It was probably written in about 1599 and tells the story of a band of courtiers who escape into the idyllic forest of Arden, where they have a number of pastoral adventures. And of course, like any good Shakespearean comedy, several of the characters fall in love, and at the end of this play, there are several marriages. Most of the courtiers we meet in the Forest of Arden are cheerful and optimistic, but not Jaques. He's a melancholy fellow who almost always sees the dark side of things. The Seven Ages of Man is Jaques' most famous speech. In it, he uses an extended metaphor of the theatrical stage for human life. He then describes the different phases of our lives, from our helpless beginnings as infants to our helpless endings as enfeebled seniors. This perspective is somewhat nihilistic, perhaps even depressing, which puts him at odds with most of the other characters in this otherwise upbeat play. But his words are also intriguing and thought-provoking in a uniquely Shakespearean way, which blends penetrating insight with graceful poetic language. That's why I've selected The Seven Ages of Man, from Shakespeare's As You Like It, Act 2, Scene 7. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then, the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. Then, the lover, sighing like furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress' eyebrow. Then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble, reputation, even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The 6th age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose well shaved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big, manly voice turning once again toward childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. The last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history is second childishness and near oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything.
Hi, I'm Juliet Wolfe. One of Shakespeare's earlier history plays, Henry VI Part 1, is perhaps a little more formulaic and more regular in its meter, yet it's not short of mysteries. One of those mysteries is Joan La Pucelle, also known as Joan of Arc. Joan has been leading France to victory against England with her mastery of language, religious fervor, and compelling nationalism. Shakespeare clearly respects the potency of Joan, writing her a plethora of powerhouse scenes and monologues. Yet, perhaps suspecting his English audience's sympathies, he riddles her with contradictions not hinted at in the actual historical figure. For example, Joan insists that her visions are holy and have come from God, yet the audience sees her stand on a battlefield and try to summon demons. Joan repeatedly asserts her virginity, yet the play casts doubts upon these assertions. In this scene, Joan has been captured by the English and is being held prisoner, and she will do anything to free herself. Rarely have I seen such a blend of desperation and strength, which is why I've selected Joan La Pucelle's monologue from Act 5, Scene 4 of Henry VI, Part 1.
First, let me tell you whom you have condemned. Not me begotten of a shepherd swain, but issued from the progeny of kings. Virtuous and holy, chosen from above, by inspiration of celestial grace to work exceeding miracles on earth. I never had to do with wicked spirits. Yet you, who are polluted with your lusts, corrupt and tainted with 1,000 vices, stained with the guiltless blood of innocence. Because you want the grace that others have, you judge it straight a thing impossible to compass wonders but by help of devils. No, misconceived. Joan of Arc hath been a virgin from her tender infancy, chaste and immaculate in very thought, whose maiden blood thus rigorously effused will cry for vengeance at the gates of hen. Will nothing turn your unrelenting hearts? Then, Joan, discover thine infirmity, which is warranteth by law to be thine privilege. I am with child, your bloody homicides. Murder not then the fruit within my womb, although ye hail me to a violent death.
I'm Jerome Marzullo. In this speech, we see the player king acting out as an allegory for Hamlet's revenge upon his father Claudius. And actually, in a later scene, they actually act out and mimic the death of Claudius by his brother. As an actor, I particularly like this scene because I can have fun with the player king being as theatrical and broad as possible while telling the story and still remaining within the truth of the character himself. Anon he finds him striking too short at Greeks. His antique sword, rebellious to his arm, lies where it falls, repugnant to command. Unequal match. Pyrrhus at Priam drives, in a rage strikes wide, but with the whiff and wind of his fell sword, the unnerved father falls. Then senseless Ilium, seeming to feel this blow, with flaming top, stoops to his base, and with a hideous crash takes prisoner Pyrrhus, ear for, lo, his sword, which was declining upon the milky head of Reverend Priam, seemed in the air to stick. So, as a painted tyrant, Pyrrhus stood, and like a neutral to his will and matter did nothing. But as we often see against some storm, the silence in the heavens, the rack stands still, the bold wind speechless, and the orb below as hush as death. Anon the dreadful thunder doth rend the region. So, after Pyrrhus' pause, aroused vengeance sets him new a work, and never did the Cyclops' hammer fall on Mars' armor, forged for proof etern, with less remorse than Pyrrhus' bleeding sword now falls on Priam. Out! Out, thou strumpet fortune! O ye gods in general synod, take away her powers. Break all the spokes and fellies from her wheel, and bowl the round nave down the hill of heaven, as low as to the fiends. But who? Oh, who had seen the mobled queen run barefoot up and down, threatening the flames with bysson rheum? A cloud upon that head, where late the diadem stood, and for a robe about her lank and all o'er-teeming loins, a blanket, caught up in the fear of alarm. Who this had seen, with tongue in venom steeped, 'gainst fortune's state would treason have pronounced. But if the gods themselves had seen her then, when she saw Pyrrhus make malicious sport in mincing with his sword her husband's limbs, the instant clamor that she made, lest the mortal move them not, would have made milk the burning eyes of heaven, and passion in the gods